Um, Often I listen. Good morning, guys. Often I listen to. There's some great teachers out there, and call them spiritual teachers if you want. Call them. I don't care what you call them. I don't. But this morning I was listening to Michael Singer, and Michael Singer wrote a couple of books. Untethered Soul was one of them. The Surrender Experiment, I believe, was another. Michael Singer really has delved deep into living free, and we can call that spirituality if we want, but he's really gone deep into living free, and his topic this morning, was on choice, and he hit it at a level where I believe many of the normal folks on the planet are at, that they could simply make choices to surrender their wants, their desires in each moment, that they could be present and see how their pre-programming, their conditioned beliefs had set them up to make choices, to feel anger, to be happy, if you will, because they were getting what they wanted or not getting what they wanted. And I believe that for lots of folks that there's the ability to go deep into that and to see that and to change, become aware, to see that the conditioned beliefs have pre-programmed them to unconsciously have reactions and to contract, or expand depending on what's happening. But let's talk about the addict for a second, or the alcoholic, and because in recovery we recognize that we need a power greater than ourselves to have this psychic change, and that the power greater than ourselves needs to be part of the recipe, or else we're screwed. We experience tells us that no matter how bad we want to, say, not drink or not use or not go back to anger, or not be in depression, or not be full of fear, not be grossly selfish, no matter how bad we want those things, for the addict and the alcoholic, it seems outside of our control. It seems like we're so deep in the friggin' hole, there's no way we can come out of that. Now, I believe that what happens is that the awakening is twofold. A power greater than ourselves that lifts us out of that, that's been the miraculous peace, is often the group, the love of the group. So I watch people get in recovery, and they get around with the group who remind them on a regular basis that that they need to stay connected on a spiritual level, that they need to pray, that they need to be in service, and they need to, and these things, these acts of love, lift them up, and as they're lifted up, they're not finding themselves disappointed with life, not having a judgment on life, finding themselves in complaint because they're lifted up in service, be it a back. So, we're in recovery. We've got a little bit of time in. The desperation that brought us into it has kind of passed, and we have judgment on people in the meetings, and we have kind of a, ego tells us that we're really smart, we can figure it out, and but the pain of living in right and wrong, our judgments, in good and bad, our judgments, on ourselves and on others, eventually, and on the confused mind, because the mind is trying to, from the place of the mind, which is in the kind of the lower realms of grief, anger, guilt, and shame, and fear, and desire. From the place of the mind, we're judging all the time, and in that judgment, we're miserable. We're fucking miserable, and so we've lost the ability to choose now. Everything's being chosen for us by our conditioned beliefs, by our trauma as a child, by our story of victim, or so we're no longer present. We're no longer living in an expanded way, and that's what happens with the addict and the alcoholic. And people say, why? He's read all these books, and he's had moments of total bliss and awareness. Why would he possibly go back to living that way? And I believe, to a certain degree, we've lost the power of choice. And what happens to the recovered alcoholic and addict is that we have choice. We've been given choice. Grace has given us choice. We can choose to accept each moment, no matter what happens. If our family member dies, our family member dies. If it's life. We accept life on life's terms in each moment when we're living in a higher state. But when we cut ourselves off from the sunshine of the spirit, from the infinite intelligence, with our will, we soon are down again. And often it's very seductive. We get the right job, we think, because our conditioning tells us that money will fix everything, and it doesn't. It doesn't. I'm sorry, or that right relationship. And what pressure we put on our partners, the responsibility of our happiness. Wow. So anyway, choice. We have the ability, and then as we become more aware, it gets more subtle. And we watch the mind, because it will come up to defend its position, and so we find the road gets narrower in a way. We need to be more in service, but in that is an expanded place of love, more in service, more in asking the question, how can I serve thee, as opposed to what's in it for me, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of me first. The addict is an extreme example of me first, no matter what it looks like. That's our nature. And so when we're living in me first, it's torturous. It's torturous because we put on a facade of service sometimes, and we put on a facade, or we get pushed into depression and and into anger, into self-pity. And when we're living me first, and it's not a pretty sight. It's not. So do we have the ability to choose? At one level, yes. Yes, we can choose. Yes, we can choose. And at another level, we've lost the power of choice. We're so deep in the hole, we can't see the light. And so we need each other. We really do need each other. I need you to help me be lifted up. And you need others, maybe including me, to lift you up. And unconditional love is is really the place where we can all live, where we can see that we are responsible for our own actions, and we are, we have been given a gift, and the really the terms of the gift in the third step prayer And in the 7-step prayer and all the prayers we have in our 12-step world are that we'll give it away. That's the terms. And my heart just goes out to fellas when I see them, men and women, but mostly in my life I'm working with men, who get so close. They get so close. And they lose it, And so, I think that there is power in prayer as well. I really, really do. And I encourage us all, one way that we can serve is to pray for others, that they come to know God's will in their life. They come to know love's will in their life. People walk away from their families, because the conditioned belief about ourselves is that we're unworthy. Yes, it's a lie. It is a lie. But that's the conditioned belief that many of us have, that we're unworthy of love. We're unworthy of having a beautiful life. And so as we move more towards service, more towards surrender in each moment, those beliefs fade away. It's not like we can actually physically change the beliefs. We don't focus on the beliefs. We just focus on the surrender. When anger comes up, we ask, how is that in service? If we're angry at somebody for something that, doesn't really matter in the moment. It just doesn't matter in the moment. I spoke to a man last night that was still mad at like the police for something that happened years ago. It just doesn't matter. That's called a resentment, and it holds us in an old place. We surrender those things, People are often mad at their spouse, their ex-spouse, and why? It's in this moment. There's nothing out of place. There's nothing to be angry about. That's a choice. We practice being here now. And for me, here I am in my backyard. It's beautiful. The grass is so green, a little long, but it's beautiful. The trees are so green. The air is so beautiful. The sun is so warm. What could be missing? How could I possibly be still carrying anger or resentment towards anybody? No, life is beautiful. So these expanded moments can happen for us, all the time. So watch your mind, watch it run around, right, with judgment. Watch the thoughts that are happening, and recognize that we can surrender them in each moment. We can just let them go, and focus on service. Focus on love. Focus on service. Service lifts us up. Boom, just like that. Make a call. If we can't find somebody in the moment to help or work with, pray for them. We all have lists of people that are in pain, that are caught in the illusion of complaint, of imagining that life should be different. just think of them and send them a prayer. And as soon as you do that, you're lifted up in that moment. You're lifted up just like that. So that's part of the recipe. And yes, we have choice. Although when we're new in recovery, it's very difficult to see. And that's, we desperately need to be around with people in the meetings, and to be there not only to take, but to be there to have empathy, to be there to have compassion for others. So be there to serve. Okay, that's my talk for this morning. I'm going to read Thought for the Day, August 26th, I believe. Is that right? Hey, Milt. Good to see you, my friend. August 26th, Thought for the Day. This is out of the book, 24-Hour Day book. It was written in 1954. It's pretty amazing. A little dated sometimes. A little, sometimes patriarchic, but I try. I actually edit as I read sometimes. a little racist even sometimes. 1954, things have sure changed. If you don't think so, find a book that was written like this in 1954 or 1950 and see how far we've come. It's amazing how far we've come. Here we go. And by the way, I believe that the 12 steps of AA and CA and NA have helped lift the whole planet. As you're lifted up, you lift thousands with you, whether you know it or not. As you become awakened, others are lifted. So that's the best gift we can bring to the planet, is our own awakening. It says here, if we're still clinging to something that we will not let go, we must sincerely ask God to help us be willing to let even that go too. So, if we're holding on to an old resentment, and it's easy to do. We tuck it away. It's our little jewel. We hate our dad or that fella, or or all men, or maybe all women. We have these resentments, and we just, they're like our little pets. So and it's how we identify too, and so we have to let that go. And sometimes we have to just ask. We have to say, please help me to let these go. Help me to let this go. Help me to find love in my heart for whoever this was or is. We cannot divide our lives into compartments and keep some for ourselves. Oh, look at that. We must give all the compartments to God. We must say, my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. This is the 7-step prayer. Wow. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. That is the 7-step prayer. Isn't that beautiful? Right here today. And it is a surrender prayer. People say they're working on their defects of character, and for me, I realize that if I guess working on is becoming aware of, but it's this prayer they'd say in the 12 and 12, which is another piece of literature in the 12-step world. The 12 and 12 says that this is the prayer that separates the men from the boys. This is where courage really comes in, because we recognize that this prayer is us asking to be lifted up, us asking to have our fears removed, to have our shame removed, to have our dishonesty removed, to have our anger removed. We're asking for that in this prayer. It's beautiful. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. And the question on the thought for the day is, am I still clinging to something I will not let go of? And that's actually been kind of the thrust of the talk today, hasn't it? And then the meditation for the day: the laws of nature cannot be changed and must be obeyed if we are to stay healthy, expanded, full of love. No exceptions will be made in your case. Submit to the laws of nature, or they will finally break you. And in the realm of the spirit, in all human relationships, submit to the moral laws and to the will of God. If you continue to break the laws of honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love, you will be broken to some extent yourself. The moral and spiritual laws of God, like the laws of nature, are unbreakable without some disaster. So we have to pay a price. If we're dishonest, impure, selfish, and unloving, it says, if are dishonest, impure, selfish, and unloving, you will not be living according to the laws of the Spirit, and you will suffer the consequences. So these are the things that we look towards, as opposed to, how can I be less angry? How can I be more loving? How can I be more honest? How can I be more giving and compassionate and empathetic? So we move towards those things, when it says in our book, progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. Because we have a tendency to beat ourselves up, don't we? Prayer for the day. I pray that I may submit to the laws of nature and to the laws of God. I pray that I may live in harmony with all the laws of life. Choice, my friend. You know, when we first come into the 12-step world and we're desperate, you know, we make the choice. And somehow mind tells us it'll be different this time. And how many times do we have to put our hand on the hot stove to know that if we go back out to use, you know, if we're dishonest, if we're full of anger, that it won't be different. We'll have to pay the price. So stick with I was going to say the winners, but there are no losers. There's just, I believe, we all awaken eventually. We all awaken eventually. The teachers have told us that over and over again. We all awaken. And that's another subject about whether it'll be this lifetime or another. But there's lots we don't know. Okay, you guys, love you lots. Thank you. And we'll talk soon. I bet.